Get 2000 AD now. Get to.
Borag-thung, Earthlets, welcome to In Orbit Every Wednesday, the brand new show from the 2000 AD thrillcast that is going to come to you every single week. So every Wednesday, we'll be bringing you a hefty dose of thrill-powered chat about 2000 AD, past and present, about things that are coming up. We're going to have special guests. We're going to have thematic episodes. It's going to be absolutely great. Half an hour every Wednesday, and it'll see you right for the new thrill-powered week. And my co-host on this odyssey through Thrill Power is, my co-host with the mo-roast. Does that work?
Yeah, that's good enough.
Yeah, that'll do. It is the wonderful KLO-E Maveal. Welcome to the brand new show, Chloe.
I know.
How are you doing? How are you?
I'm good. Like it's kind of surreal. It's kind of wild. I've come on the Thrillcast so many times, and so getting to co-host it, I'm like, this is the dream.
There you go. I mean, Tharg is benevolent and generous, and he basically said, "I'll just get somebody to do it with you." So here we are.
We're gonna get it done. It's gonna be great every single week.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we have mentioned off camera, your transformation into Tank Girl is surely now formally complete with the fringe. Like if you're not watching this on YouTube, then you're missing out on the power fringe.
There is a power for it's an accidental Tank Girl transformation, but I think it's one that's working. It's the problem of I just keep shaving the Chelsea cut down more and more and more, and eventually this is just going to turn into a nub, and then truly will I ascend and just buy a tank. It's going to be very cozy.
I mean, if your life is comics, then be comics, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's growing up reading so much Tank Girl, it was an inevitable thing. And again, for anybody not watching on YouTube, there are two individuals here with some hair. Like there's a hint of hair, and the rest is just two baldies talking about comics.
I mean, my excuse is that I'm a man in his 40s, so it's slowly disappearing from the back. So I'm just trying to cover up things here. I like to think that either I'm positively thinking that I'm like a Brett Ewins character, like in Johnny Nemo and stuff. He had the amazing kind of sideways hair coming off the top. So that's a positive appraisal of my hair. The rather negative one, which occurred to me while I was in the barber's chair earlier, was I look like Zorg from The Fifth Element.
But you know what? That's not a bad look either. You get to be a great Gary Oldman character. Like let's not knock it.
Is that basically whenever I come under pressure, I'll just start sweating like hair dye down the side of my face as I talk to a living planet and an embodiment of evil. Anyway, we have already gone off at a tangent from our mission.
That's gonna happen.
But yeah, so welcome to In Orbit Every Wednesday, where we revel in the publication of a new prog, and in this case, a new Meg as well. So every week, we and hopefully some special guests along the way will, dive into what's happening in the prog, and just enjoy the thrill of New Prog Day.
I see what you did there. Enjoy the thrill. I see what you did there.
Yeah.
You did a good job.
I like how it gives the impression that I've planned it.
Oh well, that it's a good impression. You're there's going to be a lot of wordplay here, people. It's just right for it.
That's why I invited you on and co-host. You're far too generous with your praise. Well, I'm clearly floundering. But yeah, so the big plan for the 2080 Thrillcast is we have taken one show and split it into three. So in orbit every Wednesday. It's our new weekly show. Fear not, the in-depth, long-form interviews with the creators that the Thrillcast is known for will be continuing under the guise of the creator tapes, and there will be one of those every month. I can't yet reveal who our first guest on those is going to be, but I'm very excited about it. And then our friend, your friend, Steve Morris, will be continuing the 2000 AD deep dive, where he has a guest on to talk about something from the archive, whether it's 2000 AD or the Treasury of British Comics, and really kind of dig into what makes it special. And that's going to be every month as well. So what is it? The second, he looks at his diary, the second Saturday of the month is going to be the deep dive, and then the creative review will be the fourth Saturday of the month. So please do stay tuned, and let people know that the 2000 AD Thrillcast has evolved. It has spawned into three separate shows.
That's such a good evolution though, because like I don't know, maybe I'm just being selfish, but like I'm pretty stoked to see so many like new people
Mm.
coming like onto the podcast and like getting to hear from like all the celebrities, interesting writers, interesting people who have like this history with these comics that have been running for so long, and like that's the stuff I want to hear, you know.
Oh, totally. And it's so striking, and I've been at Rebellion for what, 14 years now,
Mhm.
as the 2000 AD marketing manager, and then now brand manager, and it is so striking how many people have 2000 AD as part of their lives. Whether when the obvious thing is when they were kids, but also just in their cultural mix. It's
Yeah.
just something that they read.
Well, I mean, it's at this point, it really is. And then, I mean, coming up on 50 years. I
Mm.
mean, how it's baked into the culture.
Yeah,
It's just a part of it. I wish that would happen here in America. This is what I am here trying to do. So,
and it was noticeable because we were at Portland Comic Con, which is
Mhm.
your neck of the woods, and um, it was interesting to see who had heard of 2000 AD and who hadn't. And quite often, it's unusual how Americans come to it. Like the obvious thing is the movies, the Judge Dredd movie or
Sure.
the 2012 Dredd movie. Um, but quite often it will just be some random, like they really liked a particular creator from the British invasion. And so, the internet comes along and they go, oh, I wonder what else is there. Oh my God. Like, what
Yeah.
is this?
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people realize, like, so many of the writers, that they love that kind of, like, morphed into big American names, like, we're doing such cool stuff in 2000 AD, like, way before they were doing that, and so it's kind of it really is the perfect stepping stone to it's like, yeah, of course you liked all of these stories by X, Y, and Z, but the fact of the matter is they did even cooler stuff when they were back in the UK.
Precisely,
Like, you
like,
wanna see some real sci-fi, some real fantasy,
yeah.
then that's 2000 AD's whole deal. Why would you not go and revisit it? I have been spouting this for almost 10 years now.
But it's like, did you enjoy martial law? Well,
Yeah.
have we got some treats for you? Did you enjoy Alan Grant's Batman? That was one thing. I think I mentioned it on the podcast before. It was really notable when Alan passed away. Was just how many people um, said that his and Norm Brayfogel's Batman was like foundational for them.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know?
That was so many people. That was my Batman.
Yeah.
Like, that's the one that's actually, like, memorable for all the right reasons, which isn't always the case with Batman comics, so, like, the fact that you can get somebody that has, like, just that perfect foundation. And we did an episode at San Diego, New York, a couple of years ago, right after Alan had passed,
Yeah.
where we got to talk a lot about this. And yeah, it's there's no denying the impact that Alan Grant had on these things. And it's like, yeah, you should read his other stuff that he did that's also great.
But, and as was said at the Eisners, like John Wagner just isn't given his due. Not just the stuff he wrote, because obviously his American kind of catalog is not huge, but it's amazing how many people remember like the Boba Fett
Yeah,
series that he did. But also John, as much if not more than anyone else, set the kind of tone of the British invasion.
mhm,
Not that people were copying him, but it was that kind of the voice of 2000 AD, the black humor that
mhm.
him and Pat and Alan brought to 2000 AD, the terseness, like the
Yeah,
kind of yeah, just black mischievous humor, and it
yeah,
runs through everything now. Even in the kind of flippant humor of things like the Marvel movies.
yeah.
When people talk about like Avengers dialogue, you go, well, it's just like a milk toast version of what British comics was doing 40 odd years ago.
Yeah, the that's kind of a good way of putting it. I was having a discussion with somebody the other day talking about Marvel dialogue, and was
Mm.
literally saying, "This is the we have normal human conversation at home." Uh, this is the, version of how people talk. Like, and I think that's what makes people like John Wagner work so well, is there, especially in dialogue and stuff like that, even just reading it on the page, um, it's it's dry in a way that at least the people that I know, that's how people talk. You wanna make a quip, it's gonna be dry as a bone, like, it's and I think that's somehow something that needs to transfer itself more back into American comics, but also that Americans tend to not get as often. Um, I feel like largely the American sense of humor is a little bit different than the British sense of humor. Um, Sometimes, but I think that John is, like, the perfect person to kind of meld all of that together. And, like, you can't you there should be something in a contract somewhere where you can't bring up the fact that John Wagner has not been given his due in front of me, because I've literally written thousands of words of essays, like, writing angry letters to the Eisners. Yeah, like, why in the hell is John Wagner not in the Hall of Fame? But, yeah, that is something that I could talk for this entire half hour on, because it's
Well,
absurd.
we've talked about the past, but let's talk about the present, because one of the reasons why I wanted to do like a weekly show is because 2000 AD is a weekly comic, and so I wanted to chat about what coming out, also about comics in general. If
Mhm.
if there's something that catches our fancy that we feel that the gang listening to this will enjoy, then we'll go off and divert onto that. But it's all about exploring and bringing the sheer happiness of thriller power to the masses. I will also note, because I do have a job for which I get paid, that Chloe and I are wearing the finest in 2000 AD apparel, which is available worldwide from shop.rebellion.com. Free shipping until the 19th of January, no less,
Ooh.
all over the world. So I'm particularly pleased with that Sternhammer Ale design.
It's extremely good. It really
Yeah.
does look like a beer logo, which thrills me because I do collect beer logo shirts. But what kills me is there is a little banner underneath the Sternhammer Ale type that says "Cool as der cucumber," and that's what actually sold me on it. Uh, it's just a thing of beauty.
And now that design is by a guy called Salvador Lovato, who, if you know anything about kind of album covers and
Mhm.
things like that, he's a very well-known designer in the UK. Also, he designed the cover for the Coronation album for like
Sure.
Charles, which isn't the most punk gig. I will give you that, but
Or
it's
it's the most punk gig, like, any if you say something's punk, it's never punk,
quite,
so
quite, quite. But yeah, let's talk about 2000 AD and the magazine, which are out now. 2000 AD Prog 2415, 2415.
absolutely insane.
And the magazine, which is 476. But we'll start with 2000 AD first, because the issue that's just gone,
Mhm.
numbers 2414, started Judge Dredd Soft, which
Yes.
is I mean, I've been looking forward to this all year because this is the much anticipated sequel to, follow up story to
Yeah.
Judge Dredd: A Better World. Which, if you've listened to the podcast over the last year, we have waxed lyrical
Oh,
about this
yeah,
story.
and it was such a banger. You can't there's such good reason to just keep talking about it, so
Yeah.
the
Wait,
no, please go on.
oh, right. Well, no, again, a little bit of work intrudes on the chat, but the collection is out on the 26th of January. A little bit delayed in the US, so I think it's going to be February before the collection is out there. But I mean, this surely is an Eisner winning collection. It has to be.
If it's not, they're gonna get more angry letters. Just putting it out there.
I mean, it's we had Rob Williams, Arthur Wyatt, and Henry Flynn on the show, um, kind of around about this time last year when
Yep.
we relaunched the podcast. And A Better World is basically, what if Judge Dredd but ACAB? What
Yeah.
if Judge Dredd but Universal Basic Income? And really a culmination of a lot of different threads, a lot of different ideas that have been kind of bubbling away a little while with Judge Dredd at its best, where it is actually engaging with
Mhm.
real world ideas. I saw some, you know what? I'm going to swear on my own podcast. I saw some knobhead going on about, well, it's not going to change the world, is it? Well, it's not bloody meant to. Satire and fiction allows us to kind of filter through what's happening in the real world, and you've got a story here which just it's one of those ones where the blinkers aren't on.
Mhm.
Like, Mega City 1 is a depressing place where the worst things happen, and the worst things happen. I mean, what in looking back on it, what was your reaction to A Better World, and what's your reaction to, like, the first couple of episodes of Soft?
I think I we it's something that gets talked about pretty often with Judge Dredd, but I actually think that purposefully finding ways to bring purposefully finding ways to bring in things that are relevant right now um is great because that's part of what the whole world of the judges is about.
Mm.
That's the root of Judge Dredd is well, what if things keep getting worse? And so you get to see like, okay, but what if we sprinkle a little bit of what these things that everybody is calling for right now, defunding police, universal income, like all of these things that people are rallying for right now. Why wouldn't you try to put that into the Judge Dredd universe to see what happens? And I think a better world just did that so beautifully, and I think I said it the last time I was on the podcast too, which is, um, it's it just seems natural, and Arthur Wyatt and Rob and Henry all together again is like catnip for me because I can think of few other people that can really weave that story together in a way that isn't heavy-handed or is heavy-handed in a way that is effective. For God's sake, if you're going to put the whole thing in there, then it needs to be weaved in a way that is truly going to highlight just how horrible Mega City 1 really is. And I think that they do that really well. And especially, like you said, really looking forward to Soft being kind of the follow-up to that. And I'm just ready. Like, I'm ready for this to all play out in a way that only they can do with these stories. Um I've had many an argument with people that I think Rob Williams is the follow-up contemporary answer to John Wagner. And
Oh, don't give him a big head. Oh no, that's
I
awful.
I can't help it. But I like it's just everything is so effective and there's a long game being played here.
Mm.
Um, and those are the stories that I look forward to the most. That takes quite a bit of skill reading something like A Better World and then actively looking forward to another story. And so Soft is just something that I'm going to be holding close to my heart because I need that continuation, and that's kind of rare in a lot of comics right now to genuinely and truly look forward to that thread being stretched just a little bit further.
I mean, and shout out to Jake Lynch as well, who's on art duties for this.
Yeah,
Henry's and Jake's work complements each other nicely.
they
Like
really do.
they're not slavish copies of each other, but they just Jake rises to the occasion of
Mhm.
of what Henry. You know, you look at Henry's work on A Better World, and it's like era defining stuff.
It is.
Um, but Jake isn't like a sub. You know, he's not coming in and go, oh, it's Jake. He's like he's rising to the occasion, and just this second episode, there's just I don't know what it is about his work, like his slightly elongated kind of McMahon-esque body.
Yeah, he does have kind of the stretchy I call him the stretchy boys. The
Judge Dredd and the Stretchy Boys. Okay, yeah, I see it.
Yes, but that's like there is something very, very McMahon about it where everything's just a little bit it's all very proportional and very aesthetically pleasing, but it's a little bit too long. It's a little bit disproportionate and yeah, I think that's it's the perfect and like you said, it's complementary. It bounces off of each other really, really, really well.
One thing that going through this prog the other day really struck me was the variety of stories in this prog.
There's a lot.
Isn't there just like so? For those who in 2000 AD, the big Christmas issue is like a bumper, 100 or so pages of just lots of different stories. Many of them one offs, and quite often they continue into the new year. And just there's less so this year, but in this issue, you've got Hawk the Slayer, so the
Mhm.
continuation of the let's use the word classic advisedly. And
Classic.
movie from the 1980s. And then you've got Portals and Black Goo, which this episode and spoilers um now includes Cursor to Doom, which is like which is a classic
Yeah.
British character. So that's all about kind of Fortean stuff and arcane stuff. And then you've got Fiends of the Western Front, which
Mhm.
is vampires in the Wild West with Oscar Wilde, and we will come on to that in a moment. And I'm just conscious of time. And then you've got The Out, which is like the purest sci-fi you can possibly imagine,
Yes.
and that's nuts. That's nuts that all of this is in one comic, you know. Um,
Yep.
but the one I do want to talk about is Fiends of the Western Front because it's got Oscar Wilde in it, which is not.
Which is very I feel very kind of in your wheelhouse, Mike.
I mean, kind of. You know, it's one of those things that once you go, well, you know, picture of Dorian Gray
Yeah.
has been played as like a vampire allegory in the past.
Yeah, of course.
It's kind of what I love about this, and you know, the story's great, art was fantastic. Ian and Tin and doing fantastic work. What I love about this is we got contacted by the Times Literary Supplement from their diarist to say, "Oh, I see you're featuring Oscar Wilde in Fiends of the Western Front," and they put it. They mention it in the Times Literary Supplement.
No, really?
New Year, yeah. And like head exploding stuff. But that's what that's one of the things I love about 2000 AD is that you can just throw someone like that in to a story,
Yeah.
make it work, be silly or serious or bombastic or whatever, and someone in the quote unquote outside world will go, "Ooh, oh, that's interesting."
Oh,
They're featuring a literary character.
yeah. Well, I mean, that's I feel like that rings very, very true to 2000 AD in particular, but a lot of British pop culture in general is lean into the absurdity and it will reach wide.
Yeah,
Like
and
there's
it's
something there's
gone.
something really special, there's something really special about seeing, like, Fiends of the Western Front and things like The Out kind of all mashed together, um, that's, like, I don't know, just warms the cockles of my heart, because it feels like, as somebody who kind of has specialized in a lot of the older eras of 2000 AD, it kind of feels like a I wanna say like a contemporary coming home in a way, where there is now a coming back to this beautiful, big, wide variety of things that all get to exist in the same space. And it really is like I'm constantly rallying for anthology series to really be a thing in the US again, because this is what I want. I want vampire westerns, and I want a cult, and I want, like, crazy space stuff and political, like, I need all of this together, and so, like, this prog in particular feels like a great way of getting people back on board with that, like, yeah, no, you should have this all put together. It all belongs together, and if you read it straight through, it doesn't feel like a jarring thing to skip between stories. So,
Absolutely, and it's I think it's testament to 2000 AD's longevity that you can pick up any issue, and the
mhm.
mix is so weird. You wouldn't get that mix anywhere else, and they're all multi-part stories, or you get future shock things like that, and there's always something to grab your attention. And I know we bang on about this on the podcast all the
Yeah, of course
time,
we
but
do.
there's always something you like, you know,
Yeah.
um, and it's segueing seamlessly, almost as if planned, into the Judge Dredd magazine because talking about variety in this issue, Meg 476, which is out now, you have the obvious, obviously you've got Judge Dredd, fantastic story by Ian Edgington and Nicola Azzarelli, but then you've got Death Cap, which is
Yeah.
like the cursed earth, mushrooms,
Yes.
madness. You've got Fargo and McBain, which is an oblique origin story for Judge Dredd by the way of blaxploitation movies and Dirty Harry.
Oh, it's so great.
You've got Devil in War, who is the gay vampire exorcist from Dredd's world.
Yeah.
And then you've got Lawless, which again is a western, a Judge Dredd Judge Dredd world western. Um, Plus Cadet Rico, which
Yep.
is a kind of flashback story for Dredd's
Mhm.
clone brother. Riley's Rebels, which I'm not even going to try and describe. You've just got to read it. And then, like this cherry upon the top, it's the beginning of Rock of the Reds by John
Yeah.
Wagner and Dan Cornwell, which sports strips used to be like a staple of British comics.
And some of
Roy
them are great.
Exactly. Roy the Rover's the most obvious one.
Yeah.
It'd be a whole load of particularly football
Mhm.
comic books, and they all died out as they kind of transitioned into magazines and comics went out of fashion. So how do you bring that back? How do you make people interested in the sports comic? Well, you said it in
What
space.
about aliens?
Yeah, exactly.
That's how you
and
fix
and
it.
the genius of John Wagner, we return to, that this is well, this is the beginning of book one. So the
Yep.
magazine is going to run book 1 and 2, and then we'll get on to book 3, which is a fantastic, the obvious home for something like Rock of the Reds. But again, even in a title in which all the all the stories obliquely or otherwise have a connection to Judge Dredd,
Mhm.
what is this? What is this madness here?
What is this big red alien?
Yeah, it's just great, and I again, if you're a reader who's like, I don't really want to do a weekly comic, pick up the magazine.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's
There's
just
going to be
yeah.
there's going to be something, and it's a little bit more in depth, I think, than the progs. Um, but in a way that you really can latch on to one story and just follow that straight through. Um In a way, like, and it doesn't always feel like an anthology, which I kinda like, which is nice. It's a little bit of a break, I guess, for people that don't vibe well with that particular style. But yeah, if nothing else, show up for Rock of the Reds. It's like, I just I have to say this silly little aside. I did an entire essay on Al's Baby, which is one of my favorite John Wagner things in the entire world, like gangster M-Preg story. Sign me up. But he apparently read it and then contacted me and was like, "Can I just send you a lot of Rock of the Reds?" And I was like, "You absolutely can, sir. It would be an honor." Like, my attachment to any Rock with Red story is very there. So getting to see that, like, pop up in the magazine it's a thrill. We're getting that word in
Wonderful,
there again.
amazing,
We're
what
really
what
selling
what a perfect full circle of podcasting. We have run out of time. We've hit half an hour, and I said it would be half an hour. As
Sticking to
anyone
it
as anyone who's listened to the podcast knows, we could wax lyrical about these things for hours,
constantly.
and often do. But that was the first episode of In Orbit Every Wednesday, Earthlets. Do come back in a week's time where we're going to be diving in a bit more depth. We had a lot of preamble on this one into the latest program, Meg. In the future, we're going to be welcoming special guests on here. We're going to be
We're gonna have some extremely cool people on here. Uh,
it is an exclusively cool people zone, with
yeah,
the exception
and
of
then
this
there's
guy.
us.
Yeah. And yeah, we're from February. We're going to have the creator tapes and the deep dives coming on Saturdays. So it's the usual outro that you're going to get. Subscribe to 2000 AD. Go along to 2000ad.com and hit subscriptions. You can get it sent to your door, or if you go along to the web shop and the app, you can get it digitally. The app is available on Android and Apple devices, and you can subscribe on there. There's free comics. You can get graphic novels. It's all amazing stuff. Make sure that you subscribe to the 2000 AD Thrillcast. Smash the like and subscribe buttons
Press
where
that
on
like
whatever
button,
platform you're
cameraman,
on. What I love about recording on Zencaster is that you get little sound effects. I need a klaxon.
You do.
Yeah,
Oh,
hang on,
you
hang on.
did
Wait
so
for it, wait for
well.
it.
Well, that was
Hang on. I fear this function is going to be abused somewhat over the coming weeks.
if you teach me how to do this, it's gonna be over.
Thrill power klaxon. It's just 30 minutes of the thrill power klaxon that's going off constantly while we leaf through 2000 AD.
That's right.
But yes, like and subscribe on your favorite platform, on YouTube, on Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, and all good podcast apps. Sign up to the 2000 AD Thrill Mail, where you will be informed every week of all the amazing stuff that 2000 AD is up to, including episodes of this very podcast. Go along to 2000ad.com/newsletter. I have been your host, Molcher. This has been your co-host, KLO-E Maveal.
Yeah.
And we are, from
exciting.
now on, in orbit every Wednesday.
See you next week.
But for those listening, KLO-E put her thumbs up.
Oh, sorry. We'll get used to that.
Well, we'll have to get a sound effect for thumbs up.
Aloft.
Boing. No, not a boing. That means something different. But thank you so much, KLO-E. We should be back in 7 days' time when we'll bring you more from the excellent universe of the galaxy's greatest comic.
Get 2000 AD now. Get